Hi, I'm Harrington Benton. This is Total Team Control. Today on Total Team Control, we're going to talk about base tweaking, why there's no base tweaking in the Championship Electric Football League, why it's unnecessary, and why we don't do it. And we're going to talk about custom figures as to why we keep the classic figures in Championship Electric Football League play, and we don't use custom figures here in the Championship Electric Football League. It's all original box stock style electric football. So let's start first with, let's talk about custom figures and why we don't use custom figures in the Championship Electric Football League. As you look at this defense, matched up with that Saints offense, it's pretty easy to recognize the positions of the players as here. Clearly, a defensive lineman. Here you have a linebacker. This is a defensive back position. Similar, another defensive back position. So as you look at the figures, you're able to distinguish a linebacker from a lineman, from a defensive back, and offensively, clearly a tight end figure. An offensive tackle, interior lineman, a running back, your wideouts. Figures and positions clearly identifiable and easy to recognize as players move back and forth during a play. So you're able to look at a play and see the linebacker come into the play. See the defensive back make the play on the ball. Or see the tight end run a 3 technique. Or be jammed by a linebacker. This is why we don't use custom figures. The custom figure market and the custom figure world has gotten so crazy and outrageous with figures crawling on the ground, figures laying on their backs, figures doing all kinds of crazy things that detract from electric football. Yeah, those things help in their leagues and in that type of competition where that kind of thing is legal, to have a player laying on his back or crawling on the ground so that he can't be grabbed by a cornerback or, whatever the ridiculous pose happens to be. Now, we're not totally against new poses for players, but we would expect those new poses to offer no more or less than the original poses for original players. Anything other than that is you're taking the game away from the world of football and moving it into another type of game of grab and tag and outrageous looking figures that don't look like football. They're not aesthetically pleasing to see those figures in those positions on the football field, especially at the snap of the ball and your wide receiver's crawling on the ground, or he's going up for a ball when the ball hasn't been snapped. Those types of things are the mistakes and errors in custom figures that they can't overcome. The only way to overcome those faults is to create figures that would be similar to the original figure, but with a slightly different pose and not offering any more or less advantage by grabbing or ducking or any of those types of things to the figure. But as we know, with so many leagues around the country, totally out of control, and the custom figures are crawling on the ground. As we said, they're crawling backward, they're laying on their backs, kicking and doing all kinds of things that are just not allowed in the Championship Electric Football League. So the original Fab Five figures give you the ability to immediately recognize a figure as that figure carries out his assignment on the football field. This is real football, and this is the direction that we go in championship electric football. Now, let's talk about base tweaking. Of course, in the Championship Electric Football League, base tweaking is illegal. No tools must ever touch the underside of a base in any way. All figures' bases are manipulated totally by hand. And as you've seen, the precision movement of our players, it's a total myth put out by so many people across the country that you must tweak your bases. You must get the pliers. You must tweak the bases. Well, we beg to differ. We don't tweak bases, and our players demonstrate much more control, much more agility, and predictability than tweak bases. Our players are versatile. They move in all directions. Tweak-based players can only move in the direction of the tweak, which limits the player in his versatility. Let's take a look at this play, and we'll get an idea if our non-tweak bases and our players can move. And there's the play. And a big hit there. A big hit made by that inside backer. Quickly and easily recognizable. Von Miller getting in on Mark Ingram. Coming up through the A-gap and making the tackle. I think our players can move. And I think our players go where we want them to go. No base tweaking involved. Again, take a look at the beautiful positioning of those offensive and defensive players, clearly recognizable from this angle. This is your television screen angle. And just like you see it on TV, our players line up and play their responsibilities exactly the way you see it done in the NFL. People who advocate base tweaking, who claim to be professional, who claim to be the best at what they do, and then tell us that they can't control a non-tweaked base. Here at the Championship Electric Football League, we can control any base, flashed or not, and get the most out of that player and having that player perform. Let's focus on the receiver and the flanker here. You're going to see a beautiful crossing route. As you'll see, the Z receiver come here on the slant as the Y flanker goes on the go fade. And there's the play. And there you see that beautiful crossing route. As our receiver goes to the slant gets away from his defenders, but is picked up in that fire zone by that left defensive end who dropped into pass coverage specifically to take away that slant. This is the type of strategy that you see in the Championship Electric Football League that you don't see in other leagues or tournament leagues across the country. The left defensive end dropping in the pass on the fire zone, picking up the slant, and if the quarterback wants to throw the football into there, you've got a defender right there in pass coverage. I think our players move, and I think our players carry out their assignments better than any players in across the country. Beautiful defense there by that Bronco unit. Here the defense has adjusted their alignment. And just take a look at just how sophisticated these defenses can be. Just as sophisticated as NFL defenses. As again, the crossing route will come from the Z and the Y. Here you have a linebacker in a blitzing position. You can clearly see that that is a linebacker. And the defensive back to cover Cooks. This particular defensive back is in a bump and run coverage. He's playing way off of Cooks. Cooks has blazing speed. And this DB has the ability to play off of Cooks because Cooks is in the slot. So as Cooks gets to here, to about the 10-yard mark, 10 to 12 yards, that DB will meet Cooks here in his bump and run coverage. There's the safety hanging over the top, ready to get physical with those receivers if they come into his zone. Again, this blitz package is a fire zone. Fire zone Sam. As the Sam backer, Von Miller, 58, will be looking to get up in through that B gap. This particular play, we're going to throw the football. Of course, you know in the Championship Electric Football League, the ball is thrown by hand with the game board on. Hut. And there's the play. And that pass is completed to the receiver. That pass was completed to the receiver just before that defensive end could get back there and make that tackle. We're going to take a watch. Let's take a stopwatch and let's see just how long it took Drew Brees to get that football out of his hands. We're going to do that after the show. I'm Harrington Benton. This is Total Team Control, where you see the best electric football in the world.